All right, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is trace the pattern onto your felt. So you're just going to use this as just a rough outline of what you're going to do. You're going to actually be felting over this, so it's okay if you don't get it exact. It just gives you an idea of where you want your sky to be and the hills and grass and all those things. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and sketch it. You can use a permanent marker. You can use pencil. Really, anything you have that will make the image on your paper will do. So I'm just going to sketch this out here. All right. So you'll want to keep your picture close by where you can see it. I'm going to scoop mine up a little bit off camera so I'll have more room to work here. My foam piece is a little bit different from yours, but it's the same basic thing. Mine's just a little bit bigger. So we're going to start with the sky. So you'll want to get your sky color here. And what I always like to do, just so that you don't have these definite lines in it, unless you want yours to be that way, I would just pull some of it off, and then we're going to blend it just a little bit. So to blend, you're going to take two ends of the fiber. If you get them too close together, it's going to be too hard to pull. So I pulled a piece off, and now I'm going to get two ends, and you'll pull it and put it back together, lay it on top of each other. You'll pull it, lay it back together. So you'll want to do this several times. I've done it 3. That part didn't get very well. 4, 5. I'm going to do mine about 5 times. And so you'll see there's still the variation in color here. It's not completely blended, but it just helped to soften the definite lines in that a little bit. So we're going to put our blue on this top part here for the sky. So what I'm going to do is lay these pieces down. You can always add more. You just don't want to felt too much into it. So I'm going to lay some pieces on here. And you definitely want it covered up, but you don't want it too thick. So we're going to try this and see how we like it, see if we have any spots where we need to add more. So one thing I forgot to mention, you might want to stop and do real quickly, is you'll want to clean your needle. So you can just take a paper towel with some water. I like to use a baby wipe. These needles have a little bit of oil on them to keep them from rusting. So when you have a new needle, you need to clean it off. So this is a baby wipe, and I'm just going to rub it several times. And then when you get done, you should have some black marks on there. That's just the oil coming off. So let's go ahead and we're going to remember to make short pokes, only about halfway along this part that is thinner here. So I'm only going to poke in about 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more than that, putting my finger on top, and I'm going to use a straight up and down motion. And first I'm going to kind of do pokes all over, not too close together, to just get the fleece to hold down to the fabric. And because this is a blend of some different kinds of fiber here, merino is not as coarse as some other fibers, and this is mostly merino. It also has some other fibers here that take a little bit longer to needle felt in. So Okay, I got that tacked down. And then looking at this, I can see that I've got a little area here where I can actually see through it to the back of my felt. Another little area here. So I'm going to get a little bit more of that blended felt, blended wool. Sorry, I keep switching terms, felt, wool, fleece. Alpaca hair is called fleece. And sheep hair is called wool, and we have alpacas, so a lot of times I'm calling it fleece, so just know I mean wool for this one. So I'm going to add another little, just a thin layer to cover up this area that is showing through. I can see a little bit up here, so I'm going to add another little thin wispy layer up here. And I'm going to add a little bit more of these thin layers. I'm going to pull it apart so maybe they're not quite as long and put those over here. And you can take the end of your needle and kind of comb it out if it got a little bit tangled, because I kind of want this to look like these are thin wispy clouds going across the sky. All right. So now that I have it secured loosely down all over, I'm going to take a few minutes and actually get this felted down. One trick I'll show you, if you haven't broken a needle yet, hopefully you haven't, you can actually take 2 needles and use them at the same time. So here, since we're wanting to do this across the top, I'm going to take 2 needles, I'm going to put my finger on top, and that way you can do it twice as fast. So I'm going to continue doing this. As you can see, I'm just going to keep going. I'm not pressing my needle in too far. Be careful and watch your fingers. And I'm going to time lapse this, but you can do yours as well and continue until you have it where you feel like it's completely felted across. And when I get back from the time lapse, I'll tell you how long this took me to felt it. It should take you several minutes to do this. One problem people have in needle felting is they don't, well, 2 problems. They either felt too much or don't felt enough. My tendency seems to be sometimes I don't felt enough. So we're going to keep going until it's down really well here, but to where you're not doing it so much you're poking deep holes in it. So we'll time lapse this and I'll be back. All right, I'm back. I'll put a text across the screen that tells how long I did that. So the next thing we're going to do, looking at our picture, we're going to do these hills in the distance in the background. Now, if you look at your picture, it's a little hard to see since I took a photograph of my actual piece, which I'll start showing you that instead because you can see it better. You can see here that I've got these hills in the distance, and then I have this fiber that's a little more coarse I've used to make what looks like trees. So we're going to do these hills, and we're actually going to do them all the way down to this first line, and the trees will come later. When most people are doing these pictures, you work from top to bottom and background to foreground. So we're going to do all the things that are underneath first, the sky, the hills, this pasture here, and the yellow pasture and the green pastures first, and we'll come back and layer on the details that we want to stand up. So we're going to add this first darker color of green. Usually as you get closer, you want to show a little bit of depth to your picture. You want it to get brighter as it comes closer and lighter. So we're going to get this solid color green. We've got these three colors. We're going to use this one that's more coarse for the trees later. We're going to be using this for the grass that's more in the foreground. So we're going to take this, I would call it a medium color of green, and you're going to do the same thing that you did before. In fact, you might divide this first, and then we're going to, just to make the fibers a little shorter, easier to work with, we're going to pull these apart. This is actually all one color, but we still want to blend it just a bit. So I'm pulling on both ends and then stacking, and you pull again. So there we go. Now we're going to add this along this top section here, the same way that you did the blue. So we're going to start here. I'm going to tack it down. Again, you don't want to put too much at first. So I'm putting a little bit. I'm going to tack that down kind of loosely. Okay, and then you can see these parts where my background is showing through. So we don't want that. So we're going to take some more pieces of this and add it on top. We call this drafting. We're going to pull it out to make it a little bit thinner. You can pull both ends gently. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try this first, and then I'm sure I'll need to add just a little more, but I want to see those bare parts of this instead of putting too much on and making it too thick. So, and you do not have to follow the lines exactly that you drew on there. You can make your hills as big or small as you want. Okay, looking pretty good. I've still got a couple of spots where I'm seeing through where it's bare. And don't worry about, you do want this to come over the edges because you don't want white edges to show when you're finished. I'll show you at the end how we're going to hide those edges. So don't worry about this part here. All right, so we're going to add a little more here. Really don't need very much. I'm going to use the tip of my needle to comb it just a bit. Get the fibers going the same direction. That looks good. And then I have one other area that's kind of white over here. I'm going to add a little bit. Comb that out and tack it down. Okay, I've got that tacked down pretty well. I think looking at the picture, I want my hills to be a little more pronounced here, so I'm going to add just a little bit more of the wool to this side and maybe change the shape of this one just a little bit to make a little bit of a dip in the hill right here, just to add a little bit of tiny bit of interest. So you can take your needle and just pull it down just a little. I'm we call this the drag and poke method. If you want a pretty straight line, you can drag it across the edge and then poke it in. So I'm going to do that here. So I like that a little better. It wasn't a big difference, but just adds a little bit of interest there. And then on this side, I want it to come up a little bit more, make it more of a pronounced hill. So I'm going to tack that down. And then I'm going to drag that across the edge and poke and get those green fibers going down in there better. Okay. And I like that. I'm happy with that. So I think it's tacked down pretty well. So now we need to felt it in. So you can use one needle. I'm going to use two. You can do that as well if you want to do it a little bit faster. I'm going to put them together. And you can do this with as many needles as you want, 3, 4. Sometimes people will tape them together. There are also tools. Let me get my felting tool. This is a really nice little tool to have that you could order. I may have ordered this one off Amazon, and this one I can put 5 needles in at a time. They make ones that are even bigger. So normally I do use this a lot, especially when I'm doing a picture with a big area. So we're going to go ahead and you felt yours in, and I will felt mine, and I'll come back and tell you how long that process took me. So I'll time lapse this, and you can work on yours. So. Okay, I'm really happy with how that's looking. So we're going to move on to the yellow field. So we're going to do this one in the exact same way. I'm going to divide my fleece, and I'm going to tear it and blend it a little bit just to get it apart. Sometimes I find some of these pieces, these really aren't, but sometimes it's a bit felted together. And it's nice to be able to do this to get those fibers pulled apart, and makes it a little bit easier to get it positioned where you want. So we're going to do the same technique here. We're going to draft it out a bit by pulling both ends and lay it across this area. I'm going to do the same with this piece down here. Oops. I'll lay this across. Put one more right here. And let's get that tacked down and see how we like it. If we need to add any more fleece, we can. Wool. And on this part, don't worry too much if you get a little bit of yellow on the green. We're going to put a line of trees here. Now, this part where the sky meets the top of the hill, you do want that to be more defined. But if there's a little bit of overlap, no problem. It's looking pretty good. I don't see any white spots other than I have a little one right here. So I'm gonna pull just a bit of this fiber off. In your kit, you'll probably have enough fiber to do 2 pictures if you wanted to purchase some felt and do a second one. Just know that if you buy felt, I would look on maybe Amazon or somewhere. The type of felt that you usually get, like in the craft aisle at Hobby Lobby, is just synthetic. And it's not going to felt very well because it doesn't have that natural fiber in there that it can kind of grab on and cling to. So I think it's a little bare right in this area. You probably can't see it. All right. I think we're ready to felt this in using our quick felting method with 2 needles. So I'll time lapse this and you can do yours and we'll come back in a minute. Okay, so there's that part. Now we're going to do these last 2 parts. So to help give the illusion that this front field is just a little bit closer than the back, maybe a bit difficult to see with the camera, but I added a little bit of yellow. I've used this green landscape, it's called grass, landscape fleece, wool on here and I like this because just like real grass, it's actually not one color, it's lots of different colors of green and even yellows in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this back part that's further away and blend that a bit and do that first. And then we're going to move to this part in the foreground and add a little bit of our yellow that we have left from the field and put that in there. So first you're going to take, and since the back part should be a little darker, you can see there's a lot of different colors in this. So I'm going to try to save some of this lighter for the foreground, not all of it, but this bottom part is a little bit lighter than some of this. I'm going to actually pull out some of the darker fibers there. In felting, we call any natural substance that you can use to felt fiber. So that could be sheep wool, alpaca fleece, linen, cotton, all different kinds of things. Those are different fibers that we use. So you may hear me talking and calling that fiber. That's what I mean. So I'm going to use these darker colors mixed with a little bit of the light. So I'm going to do that same technique as before. We're going to pull it and put it back together several times. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it may just depend. It's just kind of something you look at and determine if you think that's enough. 6. I'm doing this a little bit more. I want it to be a little more blended than my sky. 7. Okay, that's pretty good. I did mine about 8 times, and I'm going to try this and see how we like that. So I'm going to pull some of it off. I'm going to draft it out just a little bit. and lay it on here. And this back part isn't as big as the front, so we don't need quite as much. So we're going to get this started and get it tacked on. And I'm trying to keep the little strands, extra little pieces of green out of my white. We will have some trees and shrubs here, but you're also going to have parts where you can just see the field. So I just don't want to get big pieces of green in the middle of my yellow. If you do, the nice thing about needle felting is it will pull out. It's not like you ruined it. So it's no big deal if you gets a little bit in there. You can use the end of your needle to pull it out. I'm definitely going to need some more at this end. So I'm going to pull some more of this off and some of these darker fibers. Spread them out a little bit. And every bat of wool that you will order from somewhere or make on your own may be different, blended with different colors, different fibers. I kind of like how this one does have some kind of fiber in here. I'm thinking it could be bamboo or something like that that's a little more shiny. I like that because that gives the idea of the light shining off of the grass. Okay. Does make it just a little bit more difficult, a little more hairy, I guess you could say, a little more difficult to deal with, but that's okay. We can get those poked down in there. So, all right, I'm gonna finish. Okay, so I want to show you one thing. I'm hoping you can see this on the camera. There are some little hairs that are just sticking up here. I'm going to use that drag and poke method to try to secure some of those down. So I'm just going to drag and poke. And I don't mean to stick my needle in that much. Sometimes it's hard to do it when I'm holding it up like that. So I have less control over the needle. Just drag and poke it in to get that in there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. There's a little bit right here where I want to add some. I want to make sure I pull a little bit of the darker fibers off of there. I want to get that. Okay, so now we're ready to get our two needles together. And again, I'll time lapse this and you can do yours on your own and we'll come back. All right, so there's that one. And we can always come back and work on it a little more if there's something that you don't like or want to change. So now we're going to do the green that's in the foreground. So I am trying to use a little bit of my lighter colors here. It will still have some of that darker because I want it to blend together, but I'm trying to focus on more of the light colors. So let's go ahead and we'll blend this. So you pull the ends and overlap, and then pull again, stack and pull. And just blend as much as you want. So there's that. And I do like how this has turned out. You can see it's actually quite a bit lighter. I focused more on actually picking out some of the darker and lighter fibers in this one than when I did my original. I didn't focus as much on that, so I had to add some yellow on top, but let's see what this looks like. So I don't need all of it at once. So I'm going to draft it out just a little bit. Put that here. Then I'm going to take this next bit. Make sure I go a little bit below the bottom with that. Have some more here. Okay. So let's do the same thing we did before. Going to take your needle and tack it down different places to just get it started. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our quick needle felting technique. I'm going to add just a little bit right here. I see some bare spots, but then I think the rest of it is good, and I'm ready to felt this in. I did notice right here, I kind of have this group of lighter wool pieces. I like that, but I don't think I want it that much grouped together. So I'm going to pull that apart and draft some of it so it'll show up different places down here. Don't want it to be quite so defined. But I think it would add a little bit of a nice effect of the light shining off of the grass. So I'm going to add a little more. And then just a little more right here. And I'll see you back in just a minute. All right. So I think that's pretty good on our basic background for this. I like the color variation here, but just to show you, because I do think it would add just a little bit more depth, if I take just a little bit of this yellow, what you want to do to add it to the foreground, to just add a little bit more of that idea of maybe some sunlight shining on the pasture, and just that grass in the foreground. I'm going to pull it very thin, may even be hard to see, and just on this closest part to us, I'm going to add some little wisps of this in here. And it doesn't have to be solid. In fact, I think it's a little bit better if it's not. So I'm going to add some little wisps of this yellow, just sunshine on the field. Okay. And then I'm going to tack it down just like we did before. Trying to keep it out of that backfield where the color changed there. And you want to tack it all over first. Right here, I don't know if you can see that. I noticed that I got kind of a clump of it there together, and I don't like how that looks. The nice thing about needle felting is you can just gently pull that out. I'm gonna do that. All right, I think I'm ready to put that in. Since this is on top, we probably won't have to put it in a lot. We are going to be also putting our sheep over this, so just going to go around. Just like that in the foreground, adding a little bit of interest there. All right. So we'll come back in just a minute and start adding some things that add more depth and interest. This part took me right at 45 minutes from the start to finish of this background. And of course, if this is your first time needle felting, or even if you're just following along, it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, I do have quite a bit of places where you can see that the needle poked. It's not going to be completely smooth, but you can take your needle and very lightly drag it across to minimize some of those poke lines that you see in there. But you don't want to drag it too much. It will pull the fibers out. And then I see right here, I have a white space. I'm going to lift some of this up and tack it down to cover that. You can even add some more if you want. But you can do that here as well. The other way that you can help correct this, if you have more other needles and when you're getting close to being done, you can go over the whole thing with a finer gauge needle. And that would also help with that. So I'm just kind of getting a little bit of this out. We can do some more of this later when you're doing your finishing touches on everything. But I just wanted to show you how you can do that a little bit. All right, we'll come back with the next part of our project.